Hello, friends. Well, it's been a minute. Let's see. I wonder if this microphone works. You guys hear me? It pulls the collar down, kind of reveals some skin. I don't know about that. Let me just double check my settings super duper quick. Let's see. We go to the sound input MacBook Pro microphone. I don't know. I don't think it works, but that's okay. Let's see. Input, output, sound effects. No. Okay, we're back. Hi. So we have one viewer. That's exciting. I'm in New York. I'm in my sister's apartment. It's a very nice apartment. I don't own this apartment. It's a little bit outside of my budget range. Let's see. Questions. Okay. No one's here yet. It's just me, myself. Oh, two people are here. Just kidding. You guys joined real quick. Hello. I've been out. I've been MIA. And not in MIA as in Miami. MIA as in missing in action. I wish I could give you guys some better reasons, but really came back to the States and I hadn't played League of Legends in a while and I wanted to play with my friends. I was in Brazil. It's a totally different server. Couldn't even talk to my friends. No, that's not true. We talked over Discord, but I couldn't really connect with them and play together. It's been really fun playing video games together. Such a social experience and really builds teamwork and all those good things. You know, I wouldn't be that upset if my kid ended up becoming like a professional gamer and you know, I was the coach of our school's esports team. No league crisis, Hanvi. So yeah, I'm here to answer your questions, just to be a resource to you guys. Feel free to ask me whatever you guys want. I'm an open book. I want to help you guys, and I just want to answer whatever questions you guys might have had when you were going through college, things like that. I know I've been saying this for months, for weeks. However, I swear, once I get back to Miami next week, I will start making a lot of fun college content. And really not just like, oh, high schoolers applying to college, but also I've noticed that there's a lot of topics that just college YouTubers don't really talk about. Like, for instance, every college student goes through multiple existential crises. You know, what am I going to do with my life? Who am I really? Are the people around me what I need? Do I want to, you know, like crazy big changes like that? So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about how to butter up your professors for recommendations. We'll talk about how to survive making like $2 meals. Yeah, all that good stuff. Where am I now? I'm in New York. I am in Washington Heights with my sister. I have a very important job. The job is to cat sit. As you guys noticed, this little black potato over here. He's nocturnal. I believe that the cats sleep in the day, more active at night. My sister says that I have to spoon feed him. This cat lives a better life than I do. If he doesn't eat his wet food, I have to spoon feed him. I'm doing pretty well. Hey, Jeff. It's good to see you. But yeah, quiet Saturday, really, really busy with lots of tutoring this summer. You know, I was kind of, I don't know, guys, you know, going on with the work and the finances. I myself have had some questions about where my future is going and all that good stuff. But anyways, we'll get to that in a second. If you don't mind sharing, did your sister also go to Yale? Funny story, my sister and I never went to the same school ever. So my sister is 13 years older than me. She was born in China, actually, and she emigrated to America when she was around 4 or 5. So she lived in New York for a few years and then moved down to Miami. And yeah, my sister, like, the elementary school that I went to was different from my sister's elementary school. Her middle school was different from my middle school. She went to a public high school called Pomodoros. No, excuse me. She went to Sunset High School, which is literally built like a prison. It looks like a prison. So she went to Sunset, and then she applied to quite a few schools back in her heyday. This was actually before you had like the internet and the portal. You had to send in your applications via mail with a check. The good old days, the Iron Age. So she applied to, I want to say like Columbia, UVA. I think her dream school was Columbia, and then she didn't get in. She ended up going to UVA, where she double majored in art history and economics, I want to say, and then minored in, I can't remember. I think she just minored in history or something like that. And then she went to law school. She went to BU for law school, and now she is a practicing family attorney. Yeah. So my sister did not go to Yale. She did not go to Exeter either. We went to totally different schools. Yeah, what other questions do you guys have? Pretty chill day. We got 2 people here. I know it's the start of the summer. I believe that some students, like I have kids in Arizona that I tutor, and they said that their school is out, versus I have some students who are in Florida and they're like, oh, our school ends in 3 more weeks. So the summer schedule is just all over the place, really funky. I wish it was more standardized, but it is what it is. I'm glad that I'm out of school. I really don't plan on going back to school unless people pay for me to go to business school. I can't even imagine myself going to grad school and doing research. Like, you could not pay me to do that. Torture. Jeff, even if it's just you and me, man, ask me the saucy questions, the easy questions, whatever you want to know. I'm happy to answer and just be useful. For reference, guys, this little kid in the chat, Jeffrey Yu, is also a Yale student. I taught him how to break dance. He's a really good wrestler. He does a lot of meal prep. Oh my goodness, Jeff, with the $5 sticker. Thank you so much. If you guys want to show your support, you can sauce me a super sticker or a super chat. Thank you, Jeff. Wow, super chat, Pog, play of the game. Wow, he hit me with that $5. So far, I literally can go through my history, and I think there's like 3 or 4 people who have sent me super chats or super stickers, and I'm gonna create like merch for you guys. You don't have to pay anything. I will just remember you guys when I have like 100 super chat. I don't make a lot from YouTube, but it's kind of dope that I do make a little bit. I make like 60 cents a day just doing nothing on YouTube, even these past couple of weeks. These AMAs are the best. I'm glad you like these AMAs. I don't want you guys to think that like, oh, I'm so removed, like this crazy Yale student who's done like all these, wild things. Admittedly, I have done a lot of wild things, but I'm also a human being. I'm not that far removed from you guys. I've always wanted like a little sibling, little brother or sister, and hopefully I can be that for you guys. I mean, I live life on cheat codes, right? Like my older sister basically handed me a lot of cheat codes on the silver platter: how to cook, like dating and relationships, applying to college, financial aid. I never really had that first gen struggle where you like pouring over the financial aid documents and you don't understand what to do. Like, no, my sister helped me big time. We went to UVA. It's kind of a funny story. I know there's some juniors in the room. So my sister and I went to UVA. And then she showed me all her favorite University of Virginia restaurants. There's like a dumpling place. There was a cookie place, and then my sister, and she took me to smoke hookah. So my sister and I are in this hookah lounge. I'm like 18, she's like 31, and we're smoking like a ton of hookah to the point where like I'm feeling pretty lightheaded. By the way, hookah is bad for you. This is not a hookah ad. All right, everyone proceed with caution, to each their own. However, my sister and I were in this hookah lounge, and she just kept asking me questions, and we came up with a lot of good ideas. That's all I have to say. Worked for me, might work for you, maybe. If you guys have never done it, I mean, it's worth trying. Hookah, there's lots of different flavors. It's fun. I think it's fun. So I just remember my sister and I brainstorming. We came up with some really good ideas, jotted them down, and just got to work. I did do a few college tours. I went to UPenn, went to Georgetown, UVA, Columbia. There's some colleges that I toured that I just didn't really like and didn't end up applying to. So, wow, you smoked unsubbed. All right, we have Sprinkle Slayer. I think Sprinkle Slayer is a new person, new sub. I've never seen you in the chat before. Hello, welcome. For those of you who are new, welcome. And for those of you who are old and returning, welcome back. Don't forget to sauce this video a like. And at this point, I would love to hear where you guys are watching from. Where in the world? I know Shams is in, should I reveal your location? Maybe not, maybe not. I was just overstepping my boundaries. But anyways, let's get into these saucy cues. Yeah, Jeff, please ask me whatever saucy questions you want to know. Jeff is, I think, 2 or 3 years younger. Jeff, did you end up doing he's in upstate New York. Oh, South Africa. Wow, we have upstate New York, South Africa. Let's see, Jeffrey Yu. You've talked a lot about senior societies and meeting people with different interests and ambitions. As a senior, what other things would you recommend doing to meet people like this? So, oh, hey, Tommy's from Texas. Awesome. Okay, so when it comes to senior year, guys, so one thing that high schoolers don't really understand about college is that it's a different trajectory. Like in high school, as you get older, you run more and more clubs, to the point where like senior year, you might be running like 3 or 4 clubs, right? You're doing research, internships, all that good stuff. That's not really how it works in college. It's a little bit accelerated, the timeline. But what I mean by that is that you, as you get older, you run more and more clubs, to the point where like senior year, you might be running like 3 or 4 clubs, right? You're doing research, internships, all that good stuff. That's not really how it works in college. It's a little bit accelerated, the timeline. Juniors run clubs, not seniors. So it's very rare for a senior to be sticking around and still running like a huge organization. Like they typically have juniors do that sort of thing because senior year, everyone is focused on finding a job. And it's a really weird process where people are kind of doing it on the DL. They're applying. You see people at the same interviews. People end up like applying for the same stuff when it comes to the companies that go to this campus. So that's why senior year gets a little bit funky. There are like 1-year societies and things like that at Yale. I can't speak for the other schools, but senior year is really focused on the job search, which makes sense. That being said, I was fortunate enough to find like some of my best friends at Yale my senior year. And that was through my society. It took up a lot of time. I don't even know what I would do if it wasn't for my society. I probably would have strengthened the bonds that I already had. But also as a senior, I think it's really fun to hang out with freshmen and sophomore. Like they're really young. They have all this energy. They bring you out of your jaded cave. But there are groups that you can join still as a senior. And I hate to say it, but it's kind of like stigmatized, especially at Yale. If a senior tries to join like a club for the first time, it's kind of weird. So it is a little bit weird, but I still wouldn't discourage people from trying that. Like I wish I had done more of that. I wish I had shown up and done, Yale drama maybe my last year, or different styles of dance or things like that. And if I could go back and do Yale, I would do it like 3 or 4 different times, right? Like I wish I had focused more on writing, or I wish I could do it over again and just like dive deep into comedy and drama, or I wish I could do it all over again and focus on like maybe I should have focused more on my academics. But whatever. That's all in the back. Okay. Jeff, I'm coming from a gap year. Like, look, you should have gap yeared. Like gap yearing is literally one of the best things you could do in college. I recommend you guys should do a gap year either between, your sophomore and junior year. That's really common. Junior and senior year. You can even do it after your senior year, as we were all kind of forced to do as class of 2020. Everyone's forced to take a little virtual gap year. Yeah, good stuff. What am I reading these days, Mama Shalanga? I'm reading this new fantasy series called The Stormlight Archives. The Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson. It was rated as like one of the highest rated fantasy books, fantasy series. This guy is kind of a genius. And one of my students, Shams, actually, who's in the chat, sent me this website, which is really awesome, called zlib. So never ever pay for a book, guys. Just use this website, z-lib.org, and you can download free EPUB and Mobi files, which are the e-reader files. So, if you have your books app on a Mac, you could even just convert them to a PDF. It takes like 5 minutes. So don't pay for books unless you like the author, right? If you really like the author and they're like an up and coming writer and you want to support them, then yeah, do that. But I mean, some of these like really best-selling books, which are kind of expensive, that's the other thing. I think that I will become a pretty wealthy person because I just like don't spend money. Okay, another question from Siobhan Morgan. Hello, Siobhan. It's so great for you to join us today. Hey, your channel is really cool and informative. Do you find Yale and other Ivy League schools have the same culture and mentality for grad school too? Yes, they do. They do. And I don't genuinely feel like a lot of kids are going to grad school for the right reasons. My sister and I have talked about it, and we see this trend where like really smart kids are kind of, maybe they're afraid to join the workforce. They want to kind of stick with what's comfortable. Maybe like collecting these more prestigious badges of, okay, after I graduate from Yale, what's the next step? Or I graduate from Columbia, I could do grad school at, another really great institution. I mean, if you want to become a professor, then obviously going to grad school is crucial. Like I have friends who they knew they were going to be professors their freshman or sophomore year, then yeah, obviously go do that research. That makes perfect total sense. But I feel like some people are like, oh, I don't really know what to do, so I'm just going to go to grad school. I'm just going to apply to grad school. I don't really know what I want to do with myself. I'll just apply to law school. I'll just go to business school, something along those lines. I think that's I don't know. I feel like people should have a little bit more direction or purpose. Like rather than going to grad school, if you worked and tried to start your own company for 2 to 3 years, you'd learn more and you'd probably have a better risk reward than grad school. So the other thing about grad school is they pay you to go for PhDs. But a PhD it could be 4 years, it could be 5 years, it could be 6 years, it could be 7 years. Look, guys, I just have friends who are studying to become professors, who are getting their PhDs, and freaking blows. Like, they are miserable. You guys don't understand. Like, grad school is miserable. I remember eating lunch with my econ TAs, right? Yale economics grad school program, quite literally the best in the world. And I'm meeting with my TAs and they're like talking to me about like really basic stuff, supply and demand, microeconomics. And there was this dude who just collected degrees. Like, he was picking up, I don't know, dollar bills from the floor. So he had a physics degree from Stanford, he had a law degree from Harvard, and now he was getting his PhD in economics at Yale. And he was like, dude, this is miserable. Like, I don't know what I'm doing with myself. I just keep going around. And as a grad student, like, you can't even get the time of day from professors. You have to teach classes. You're kind of just like lowest of the low. It's so depressing. I was like, geez, man, like, why are you even here? And a lot of people don't finish their PhDs for that reason. It's so toilsome. And then you have to ask yourself, like, what's the next step? The issue with grad school is that it's a whole pyramid, right? Like, you graduate from grad school and then it's only the best of the best that can become professors. And there's not a lot of like open professor spots each year. Like, think about how many professorships are open every single year. It's probably less than 1,000. And you have all these grad students graduating. And then guess what? If you don't have like really fantastic research, you're not going to be a competitive candidate. I don't know if you just really want to play that game. It's tough. Now you have to also consider, like, if you're going to be a professor, guess what? You can't really choose where you get to settle down. You just choose where the opening is. If there's an opening in Iowa or the University of Oregon or like in Michigan, then that, guess what? I mean, you're not in, like, you don't like the Midwest, or you don't like the cold, or you don't like the Northwest. Sucks. You still have to go. Like, that's your job. Anyways, it's a discussion for another time. I personally would never be, should I say never? I could be a business school professor. I do like to teach, and actually, like, teaching is my whole entire job now. But I just think that, funny story, I actually was kind of a professor this past summer because I taught an English course for Chinese students virtually. But I don't know if it's something that, I don't know. I guess it could be. Maybe I'm just like pooping on them too much. I'm just being a little bit too harsh. Now, professors are fine, but I just think the whole grad school experience is it's just kind of miserable from what I've heard. I don't really know if it's worth it. You get paid like, what, 30 grand, which is nothing. And you work like a dog. Like, you work so much. You guys think grad school is easy? You're working like 40 to 60 hours in this lab. You have to teach. You have to do research. You have to go to courses. It's complicated. And sometimes your research just hits a dead end. There's a lot of things that are not in your control. You don't get money for a grant. It's a whole headache. Okay, Sprinkle Slayer. Do you think a college would accept me with an online high school diploma? I'm thinking of attending an online American school since the curriculum at my school is so different and limited. Capital T, capital T. It really depends on a lot of different factors. I mean, if you have amazing recommendations and you have amazing essays, then yeah. I do think that something that would be helpful is considering going to like a stepping stone school. Like, so maybe this is a state school that you apply to, or maybe it's like a community college, ball out for a year, then transfer up to a really great school. That would be my strategy. Sprinkle Slayer. You mentioned you're from South Africa. That's really tough as well for international students. But yeah, I think it's definitely possible. Very informative. I guess my question is similar, says Hannah Harris. Do you think that Ivy Leagues have the same culture and mentality for medical school? For medical school, you end up with the same kind of scenario. I think a lot of kids go into college with some idea, I want to be a doctor. Some kids kind of lose that dream. Some kids kind of discover that future for them. I mean, if you want to go to medical school, like if I had a little sibling and they were really interested in medical school or law school, I think that, and then they had it really depends on like family finances and all that sort of thing. Like, if I had to dish out $250,000 for Yale versus, they would pay like, I don't know, 50 grand by going to their state school. And let's say it's a really, really good state school. Like if it's in California, for instance, or Texas school, which are really, really excellent, then yeah, you're probably going to go to like UC Berkeley or UCLA, save us a ton of money. Then it's actually a lot easier to get into med school from a school that's just not that competitive, right? Like getting a 4.0 at Berkeley looks better than getting a 3.5 at Yale. And I have friends who went to Penn and Yale, and their GPAs got like dragged through the mud because Yale's a freaking hard school, especially for STEM. So guess what? Now they applied to medical schools, and like sadly, they didn't get into the very best medical schools. Now I have other friends who are just as intelligent, probably worked less, right? Didn't work as hard, balled out, got amazing grades at their state school, at like quote unquote a less rigorous school, like for instance Georgetown, which might be just a tad bit less rigorous than Yale. But honestly, like because it wasn't as competitive, you're not like just some of the kids at Yale, their talents is kind of scary. We're talking about kids who can like look at a page and memorize it. Like those are the kids that you're competing against now when you apply to grad school or medical school. So that's one thing to consider. Guys, feel free to ask me more questions. Just hammer them in the chat. I wanna answer whatever questions you guys have. That's why San Francisco has such good professors. I've never heard of San Francisco having really, really good professors, but I believe you, Mama Shalanga. I don't know if people would really rather live in San Francisco. I've just heard it's really expensive. I know people are kind of moving out from San Francisco. I heard about like there are startup CEOs who fly a helicopter in to San Francisco because it's cheaper than living in San Francisco. I don't think I would live. I used to want to live in California, but not anymore. Nowadays, I really, the three places that I could imagine seeing myself long-term would probably be Texas, Austin, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia, and Orlando, Florida. Yeah, I'm sick of the Northeast. I'm sorry, guys. Anything above DC, like winter is overrated. I can't do it. Seasonal depression, Brazilian girlfriend. Like, please, just let us stay somewhere tropical. I might honestly just live in Brazil, or we'd go somewhere where like purchasing power is really powerful, and like somewhere like Taiwan where things are relatively cheap and we could survive. For our plan is to get married when we're like late 20s and then raise a family. In the meantime, we'll probably just travel a lot. Anyways, I'm getting distracted. So how are the kids from the bottom third of your Exeter class faring in the post-boarding school world? Have any of them surprised you? Yeah, for sure. So when it came to Exeter, guys, like it's kind of scary because the bottom third of Exeter still does like amazingly well, like in the grand scheme of life. And you see a lot more Exeter kids transferring than the normal population. So kids at Exeter who didn't do so great, they go to a regular state school, they go to maybe a school that's just not so great, and then they ball out for a year and transfer. Like the number of Exeter kids who do that is way more significant than the actual national population of the US. It's probably like 10 times as much. Because there is that kind of pressure where people are like you don't feel so smart when you go to Exeter, and then you're back in the real world and you're like, okay, maybe I actually am like a lot smarter. I've learned all these skills. You're like a small fish in a big pond, and then you go back to the real world and you're like, a slightly bigger fish. So they're doing well. Like you check out that interview that I had with Tarun, who was the bottom of our class, quote unquote, and balled out and is so like I am jealous of his success. Like he's someone that I admire from afar, one of my best friends, getting a master's in AI now. So they all do really well for themselves. Some kids just decide that like school is not for them too, and they might go out and do art or music or film, stuff like that. So I don't think anyone is doing like really, really poorly out of such a great school. It's like even the bottom third of Yaleys do. It's like, how are they doing? They're doing pretty well. What was your first date with your current girlfriend look like? I guess there's two first dates. Sometimes she watches these live streams. I don't know if she's lurking behind. She does sometimes watch these live. The other day I was doing a live stream in Brazil and she was watching it from the other room and she just asked me questions about it. I was like, oh my gosh, I thought you were working. And anyways, sometimes she does that. So our first date, there was one in Argentina. And like I said, Argentina was a whole hot, sloppy mess because she had a boyfriend at that time. And yeah, I mean, we still went on like dates. We still hung out a lot and got close. And there was some chemistry. There was some sexual tension for sure. I'm not going to say there wasn't. But anyways, one of our first dates, probably the first time that I met her. No, that was like a group thing. I think it got kind of just like really informal. Maybe the first time she really asked me to do something one-on-one. I'm having a little bit of trouble remembering, but I do remember this. Maybe our first real date was when we went to this corner restaurant in the center of like Salta's, a little plaza, and we had some empanadas. And then she doesn't drink. She's just an angel. She's like a little kid. She likes juice, more than I like beer. She loves juice and loves smoothies. So we were just having banana smoothies together. And yeah, just talking about life and some of our favorite stories, talking about family, our happiest memories. She's that kind of person who, like, if you ask her about her happiest memories, she can kind of rattle them off for you. An amazing, sensational storyteller. And I remember I remember promising her that I would learn Portuguese so I could listen to her tell her stories in her native tongue. So that was really special. And then maybe some of our, I mean, we've gone on so many dates in like Brazil, stuff there too. And that's been awesome. I feel bad sometimes because I should be putting more effort into the relationship and figuring out things for us to do. But then again, we were in Salvador, we were in her city. So she took me out, even just like simple things, guys. One of our favorite dates, and I remember out writing about this in my journal, was we went out to the supermarket. This wasn't that long ago. It was maybe 2 or 3 months ago. And we got these popsicles. And so we were doing a thing where it was like a Portuguese day. So I was just trying to talk in only Portuguese. So my girlfriend and I were discussing things in Portuguese. Somehow I ended up talking about the hive mind of ants. So I'm trying to explain to her, like, ants are brilliant creatures. Like if it's raining, ants will, and their ant hole, what is it called, an ant pile, gets flooded, the ants will come out of the ant pile and they'll form a ball. And not like any ball, but like a really complex geometric shape. Okay, so they'll form this ball, and then the ants will rotate so that no ant is underwater for more than like a minute so that the ant doesn't drown. Like the level of coordination it takes to achieve something like that is just remarkable. Like this is a true story. Ants do that. So anyways, I'm trying to explain this to her, and we're having popsicles, and I finish my popsicle and she doesn't understand what the heck I'm saying. And so I'm like just biting my popsicle like this, and I'm just like stabbing her with it. We ended up like fencing with our popsicles in our mouths and just like laughing on the ground. And me trying to explain the hive mind of ants in my elementary Portuguese. It was a really precious, cute moment. It's not like you have to spend fancy money or go to a new place. I think that really my happiest memories all have to do with the people that I was around and not necessarily what we were doing. I think about that a lot, actually. People over places, people over events. So yeah. Ariane, can you suggest me some extracurriculars which I can do being at home? My senior year just started. Yeah, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, aren't you a CS major or data science major? I can't remember. Mama Shalonga, yeah, she did have Jorge Amado books. I need to take a closer look at those. Another question: what are some of the best life-changing rituals you adopted from a freshman in college to where you are now? Best one was meditation. That's the number one habit that I think young people should, I don't even say master, but you should start. If you can meditate every day for 100 days, it just does leaps and bounds to help manage your mood, manage your relationships, and your approach to the day. And it's, setting an intention. I think meditation was the most transformative. I actually had a lot of really bad habits in college. I definitely had more bad ones than good ones. Yeah, I would say meditation was good. It was definitely the most consistent one. I exercise a lot. I really got quite good at breakdancing in college, and it was because I practiced like crazy. So yeah, you would be surprised. I say this almost every live stream, but how many young people and college students just never get the foundations right. Like they never get sleep right. They don't get exercise right. They don't get diet right. They don't get mental health and relationships right. And then they don't get something like spiritual health, like your like meditation. Like a lot of people don't even think, there's not even a category of spiritual health. What does that mean? That means like you need to set aside time each week to look for materials that inspire you, that make you want to live. Like that's how deep it gets. If you don't actively seek it out, it's not just going to fall into your lap. Okay, it might, depending on what classes you take, but you should set that as a priority. Like what brings you meaning? And if you don't know what can bring you meaning, then at least try to consider like, how can I get closer? I have some books for you guys to read and stuff like that. But anyways, look at this. Jeff offering his email to help the younger kids. Can Nadal win the Roland Garros for the 14th time in the next 2 weeks? I mean, he is Nadal, so probably yes. My bet's on Nadal. I remember that you did an Oxbridge summer program. Did you receive a scholarship for it? Yes, I did. I did receive a scholarship for it. Sometimes guys, these programs don't have they don't say, oh, there is a scholarship. So you got to be a little crafty. You got to pick up the phone. You got to email the director. You got to tell them your story. If you tell them your story in an email, or even better in a phone call or a video format, I have probably made like thousands of dollars, not made, but saved and, gotten into programs for free for thousands of dollars because I did stuff like that. They'll say that they don't have scholarship, but at that point they've already accepted you, right? And they might have money, they might not have money, but like my mom always said, if the baby doesn't cry, it doesn't get milk. I went to Salamanca, Oxbridge summer program in Salamanca, Spain. I believe it was 6 weeks long. Yep, it was a really, really good one. I remember my teacher, his name was Antonio, and he studied Latin as a kid. He would read Latin books in elementary school. And his mom, he like grew up, with like chickens on the farm. His mom would like hit him with newspapers, like, why are you studying Latin? So useless. This man used Latin as the foundation to learn 12 different languages, became a polyglot, and his job was deciphering like ancient ruins and texts. That was his job. So that's pretty dope. Tejasvin. Hi, Tejasvin. Welcome back. Welcome back. Yeah. So these are really great questions, guys. I'm so happy to be here. Let me know if you have any other questions about Yale, about life, about my girlfriend. Seems like a hot topic. You guys want to know more about my relationship with her? Things are going well. Things are going well. We're making long distance work. I'll be back in Brazil in September too. Am I still doing 20-minute sign-up sessions? For you guys, yeah. I mean, I don't like publicize it to the world, but if someone on the live stream has a burning issue, for sure, hit me up, guys. bit.ly/fatherkevin20. The link still works. I have a really, really busy schedule this summer. I'm tutoring about 30 hours a week, and my rate is now like 80, $100 an hour. So tutoring, that's my first job. Then going to be doing a lot of YouTube. That probably takes like a couple hours each day. And then finally, I started a new job at Synthesis School, which will take, a couple hours a week. So that's what I'm doing. And also, just trying to live life, hang out with my girlfriend, hang out with my Miami friends, walk my dog, go on dates with my mom, eat dim sum, all that good stuff. Yeah, I speak some Portuguese. I speak pretty well. I know like a couple thousand words, like 2,000 or 3,000 words. I didn't do any research programs. Nope, never did any research. But to do that, there aren't research programs. You kind of have to email professors. What subjects do I tutor and what levels? So I focus on teaching kids critical thinking, analytical writing, critical thinking by analytical writing. So we read literature, classic literature, Fahrenheit 451, George Orwell's Animal Farm, classic texts that I really just think like all middle and high schoolers should read, as well as just some really great fiction that I enjoy. And then depending on the student, it usually takes 10 to 20 weeks to get good. And, by the time I think my students can move on, they're probably writing at about a freshman or sophomore in college level. And I like starting with the kids young, right? Like the elementary schoolers do really, really well. They learn faster than I think some of the high schoolers who are really busy with APs. So I actually like teaching middle school is probably the best. Then we move on to creative writing, which is my specialty. Because I'm going to brag about it. I'm happy to brag about it right now. Every single student that I've worked with over like a 1-year period and has submitted work to a competition, every single one has won. So I'm 10 for 10 right now. Every single one. And they win multiple awards. So that's been really cool. Shams is lurking in the chat, but Shams was my first trial student. He was my guinea pig. And I did a lot of experiments with him. But yeah, Shams, plug me. Tell them what I've done. Maybe he left. But Shams has won multiple scholastic, regional, and national awards for his writing. Yeah. Oh, yes, he's still in the chat. And then I also do life coaching, and I teach kids how to start programs like initiatives, my little nonprofits, things like that. I teach them how to. Yeah, just email me, I guess, if you want stuff. If you want to join my. It's very informal. I have a website, but it's just kind of on the DL. Yeah. So I also teach kids, how to start nonprofits, and that's with the intention of getting them publicity, and then they can leverage that for college admissions, all that good stuff. What is your method of teaching writing? There's a lot of different techniques. So sometimes we do close readings where we'll read a 3-page story, and then we'll write like a paragraph or two about that story. That's really deep. And then sometimes we'll focus more on breadth rather than depth. So that means we read like half a book, and then we write an analytical paragraph about the theme and how it manifests itself in the story, that sort of stuff. Yeah, I'll see you later, Shams. I'll see you tomorrow morning for our class. The thing is, I make my kids write a really high quality paragraph every week. And essentially they end up writing an essay a month. Sometimes in the summer they write more. They might write like 2 essays a month. And I found that in public schools, you guys are writing 2 essays a year. Like, how can you compare? Of course, my kids are going to do better than the average student. And the other thing that I've realized is that you can get really good at writing in a year. Like, you could go from the bottom of your class. Daniel, the girlfriend reveal. She's shy. I've asked her about it. She actually has a YouTube channel, but I won't share. It's all in Portuguese. Yeah, no, I'm gonna make you guys wait. But yeah, like I was saying, you can get really, really good at writing in a year, going from like the bottom of your class to winning writing awards in basically a year. I've done it. However, it is very tricky to go from the bottom of your class in algebra to winning math competitions. There's just too many Asians and Indians out there. It's impossible. So that's that. Is it too late for rising seniors to submit and win writing awards? You can win. I guess it's kind of tricky because if you win it in your senior spring, then you can't really put it on your college admissions, right? Like, a lot of the writing competitions are in the spring, or you submit in the winter and then they release the awards in the spring. So that's kind of tough. Yeah, other questions, guys? This is good stuff. Once I get home, I'll link the good camera and stuff and the good microphone. I'm still using like my MacBook. I swear, my old MacBook actually had a better camera. You DM me a loaded question. Did you DM me on Instagram, Jeff? Let's see. Indians are Asians? Well, Indians are South Asian. South Asians and East Asians, right? Text. Okay, let's see. Wow, this is a tough one. This one says, what were the major milestones you took in overcoming your insecurities about Asian masculinity? That is a really, really tough one. I think growing up, like, no one ever told me I was attractive growing up. No one ever said I was a good looking dude. No one ever told me that I was sexy. And it's kind of tough. Like, you don't really think that affects you, but it does. Especially as like an Asian male, I was kind of overlooked. There were girls who had like crushes on me, so I wasn't like totally in the background. But yeah, for sure, I remember admiring and being so jealous of some of the guys in boarding school in my dorm who are like, this is kind of crazy, but I remember wishing naively when I was like 12 or 13, like I was like, wow, I wish I was like this person. We'll call him James. I wish I was like James, who's like tall and African American. Like, I really wish I could be black instead of Asian. I remember having those thoughts. Or I wish I could be white, like XYZ kid, like Paul, instead of who I am, where I'm like just kind of in the background. I asked like so many girls out on dates, got rejected so many times, like more times than I can count, and it does things to your confidence too. How did I overcome that? I think that as I got older, it got a little bit easier. You know, I'm kind of a short guy, struggled with confidence, struggled with acne. And it seems like so easy now when I'm like talking about it, but it took me so like basically a decade of wrestling through those insecurities to kind of get here. And I ended up, I think what really helped was getting in like 1 or 2 serious relationships and kind of learning more from that end. And as you get older, I think that as well, like maybe it's such a tricky question. How did I overcome my Asian insecurities? I will say that like exercising a lot and dance helped so much with confidence. Breakdancing helped so much with confidence, with even putting on some muscle mass and getting confident with like dancing. Dancing is a really attractive habit to practice and master. I would say for those of you who are struggling, work on that. There are things that literally anyone can do to be more attractive, like opening up your body language. I interviewed one of my friends on this channel, and she was a psychology major at BU, and she was a girl, and she was like, I never got approached by people. And she talked to her therapist about it, and it was because her body language was so closed off. If all you did was open up your body language and you practice, there's things like you can get better at, like humor. Like those were some of my strengths when it came to humor, dance. I knew that I was a pretty good conversationalist. So if I could get a girl to at least go on one date with me, right, and go out for ice cream and chat, then things could probably work. And the other thing to note is that when it comes to relationships, it's very like, you might have to like date 10 or 20 people to find one synergy or one connection. And I think that patience is really key. Like a lot of kids and younger younger folks might get frustrated after getting shut down, or they feel like there's no connection. And that it really just takes patience. And when it came to my girlfriend, like she had a boyfriend, it was literally in the place where I least expected it, which was northern Argentina, which kind of resembles like North Dakota in America. It's cold, it's rural, and we found love there. And there was another girl who I met in college, and it was a result of dance. So putting yourself in those communities, and I mean, there's a really, really amazing book that you should read. It's called, let's see, it's by Mark Manson, who's a really famous writer. Models. Yeah, Models by Mark Manson. Really, really amazing dating book. Read this book, Models. Yeah, I don't know if you've read it, Jeffrey, but that one's really, really good. And sales. Who should sales? Siobhan. Yeah. So I used to do so much sales for Home Cooked to the point where I think I talked to 200 or 300 random people over the course of 2 to 3 months. And that helped so much with confidence, like picking up the call and just being okay with being rejected. You know, that's probably what led to the most growth, and why I'm so comfortable on camera and talking to people is because I would just practice like talking to random people, and I would be forced to, and that really fueled my growth. There were a lot of people messaging stuff in the chat. Let me just take a look. Experience builds confidence. Confidence builds experience. It is a positive feedback loop. Once you kind of crack it a little bit, it gets better and better. So a lot of people are just kind of asking, have you met any Asians from top New York public schools, Hunter or Stuyt? Yeah, of course. One of my best friends, incredible dancer, is from Stuyt. It's actually kind of a similar environment to Exeter, I want to say. Would you consider doing group classes instead of one-to-one, something like a writing summer boot camp? Sure. You know, guys, I actually just recorded a class, like I mentioned, for this Chinese English writing class. And it was 36 lectures, about 30 to 45 minutes each. And I'm planning on releasing it for free to all of you guys. I could charge you, but I mean, I charge for private, but I would be happy to just release all of that for free to you guys. I'll send you a link to the folder. And if you guys feel like donating, you can donate. So yeah, that was like a couple $1,000 gig. I'll send you all the info. What's the best way to collect it? Okay, guys, if you want this kind of course, just email me and I'll figure out a way to get it to you for free. Most people are pretty insecure. Some wait until 65 to come out and define themselves. Yeah, Bruce Jenner, for example. You know, the other thing to note, guys, is what is standard is not always best for you. Like, I just don't think that everyone should go to college. You know, 25% of, I want to say it's like 20, 30% of Americans go to college. And especially within like the Asian community, it seems like this is, you must go to college. Like, this is the path. That's just not true. And even after going to college, I mean, there's so many things that are just kind of, we take for granted, you know? You grow up thinking that this is it, this is the way. Like, for instance, guys, I really want you guys to pay attention to what I'm going to say for the next 5 minutes or so, because this is essentially my entire life philosophy. Like, I don't believe that we should be living to work. And for that reason, I have been trying to figure out a way to retire and not have to work for money as quickly as possible. And I think that this should be a lot of people's goals out of high school or out of college. Figure out a way to not work for money as quickly as possible. Now, to do that, you have to run some numbers, and it will probably take you you don't have to be a millionaire to retire, especially if you are young. If you acquire like a couple $100,000 before the age of 30, you're set. You literally don't have to worry about money anymore. And this just puts you in a really great position where that mental energy that's spent worrying about finances can be spent doing other things like helping the world, stuff like that. So that is something that I do think about quite a bit, which is how can I acquire that necessary capital so that I can like fully chase my dreams or live in the moment. Otherwise, it's kind of just going to haunt you. And so many people in this world, you know, several billion people are governed by, they have to work for money. And it's a shame, right? I mean, I could talk about this all day. It's a complicated topic, but just kind of putting that in your mind where it's like, if you're able to kind of check off that milestone, and at the same time, it's like, does college necessarily guarantee you being able to hit that? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It's complicated. Common App essay group boot camp would be awesome. What were some downsides of Exeter? Downsides of Exeter? Kind of like this toxic culture of comparison. There's two main things. One thing is like people would kill themselves to get good grades and kind of brag about it. So it'd be like, oh, I got 4 hours of sleep. We got like 5 hours of sleep. We'd have fun. Like one time we literally broke up caffeine pills and snorted them to stay awake. That's what we would do. That was like the crazy kind of stuff that we would do. That was just one time though. Okay, maybe it was 2 times. And then another downside of Exeter was the way that the game is set up. It just feels like you're competing against other kids, right? Like there's only 2 club head positions and there's 8 kids in the club. Guess what? There's going to be 2 winners and 6 losers. And I really don't think that's how it works in real life. Like we could have taken those 8 kids and separated them into 4 groups of 2, right? So 4 pairs, and told each pair, guess what? For this, instead of you guys competing to start a club or run the club, what if you guys all started in initiatives like little projects underneath the umbrella of this club, right? So what I mean by that, there's just like a different way of playing the game. It's essentially this whole philosophy of making more pie instead of competing over slices of pie. That's really, really key. So let's say that, it was kind of dumb because we would compete to run a volunteer club, like reading to kids. That's foolish. What if instead you directed that energy where people are like applying and you said, okay, we have 8 members. You 2 are responsible for making sure that the kids' literacy rate grows by like 10%. You 2 are responsible for a new partnership with a new school. You 2 are responsible for improving the kids' vocab and maybe analytical thinking. And you 2, you're going to teach the kids how to write stories instead of just reading them. Like, wouldn't that be such a better model than having kids compete? Yeah, obviously it would. If I could create a new school from scratch, I could probably do better than a lot of the schools in America, to be honest. Okay, other questions. You mentioned dance, but what other hobbies do you recommend to meet more girls? Cooking. I've never met a girl who doesn't like food. Get good at cooking. Really great way to make friends. Invite girls over for a meal. That's a little bit like it's too straightforward, but for sure, that's like a great golden ticket to pull out of your pocket for like the 3rd or 4th date. And a lot of things that people don't know, like boys don't know about girls, is that, excuse me, there's a package at the door. I'll be right back, guys. Thank you. Bam. Okay, so so one of the biggest things I learned about dating, especially in those initial dates. Oh, by the way, Jeff, there's an amazing course at Yale called Attraction and Relationships, taught by, first name is Jennifer. I don't remember her last name. Professor, dating and attraction and relationships. And she did a lot of recorded online lectures. But I wish like these are the kinds of skills that they should be teaching in school. Like imagine you guys had a course in high school called Attraction and Relationships that was required, and another course called Personal Finance that was required. Like those are the kinds of things that people should be teaching in high school. And because they don't, this guy has to teach them to you on YouTube. Anyways, so one thing that's really helpful is a lot of guys don't really know how to date. Dating is about conversation. It's about conversation. And that's why there's really bad date ideas. Like people think that going to watch a movie is a good date. Horrible. Dude, don't do that. Stop going on movies stop going to the movies as a date. That's really bad. You want to do something that involves action and movement. And typically a good date is structured in 2 to 3 parts. So you guys would go bowling. And then after bowling, there would be an ice cream place around the corner and you would go get ice cream together, right? And then you guys would go window shopping. And you guys have to remember that dating is a game where you are trying to figure out if this person is a potential match for you, and they're trying to figure out if you are a good potential match. And sometimes you guys go on a really great date, you hang out, and maybe there's no sexual chemistry, or maybe there's a bad conversation, and you just decide to let it go. And that's perfectly okay, right? Like the way that you guys should be approaching dating is almost the way that a company approaches hiring employees. Who you date is going to so drastically affect the life that you live and your happiness levels. It is the number one decision that will affect you as a young person, right? Sure, college is important, but dating, who you marry, I should say, is actually the number one most important decision that will affect your long-term happiness. I'm going to repeat that. Who you marry is the number one most important factor and decision that will affect your long-term happiness. And it's a huge financial arrangement too. Like if you mess up with who you marry and you have a bad divorce, my sister is a freaking family attorney. Trust me, I hear about this all the time. Anyways, that's enough of that. Let me take a look at some of the other questions. Aziza, what do you think COVID has affected international applicants? I think it's made it harder because more students are applying because of COVID, strangely enough. We saw like kids staying at home. There's just been a even higher influx of international students applying. So I think it is a little bit harder. In Turkey, more people got in than usual. It depends on the country. I'm from Uzbekistan. Do you think the grade system should be abolished? Maybe. Yeah, I think that in an ideal world, like, the teacher to student ratio would be 3-1, and there wouldn't be grades, but there would just be comments, and teachers would write comments for each student. That would be ideal. Okay, guys, so I hope that was helpful. Any other questions that you guys have? Let's see. Oh, Tanvir cries in Jeff Bezos' voice. Fun fact, Jeff Bezos went to this high school in Miami called Palmetto, where it was like 20 minutes from my house. Yeah, he went there. And then he went to Princeton, which I almost went to. So yeah, I'm almost Jeff Bezos, basically. So Hannah, Jeff with the other $5. I feel bad now, Jeff. You know what, Jeff? Just for you, I'm going to send you a free copy of Mark Manson's Models. Let's see. Models by Mark Manson. Here it is. I'll send it to you right now. There you go. Okay. Oh, I already read it. Oh, sorry. There's a few other really great, like I read another really amazing book is The 7 Principles of Marriage. 7 Principles of Making a Marriage Work. That one was really mind-blowing because basically what this guy does is he can watch a couple argue for 5 minutes and then with like 80% accuracy figure out who gets divorced within a 3-year period. It was crazy. That's the number one thing that I learned with my girlfriend, which was how to resolve conflicts. Like we sat down and before we had a conflict, we figured out a way to resolve the conflict. So for instance, we came up with rules, no shouting, right? No shouting and no throwing things. Seems basic, but people do that. I was like, if you shout or throw things at me, I'm out of here. Second thing was personal attacks and cheap shots. So rather than saying like, oh, like Kevin, you didn't do the dishes, you're so lazy, it's just so like some stuff where it's like really personal attacks. Like, why didn't you do this? I asked you to do this. You're so useless. Like those are called personal attacks. And you'll read more about it in the book. There's like 4 horsemen of conversation. There's stonewalling. There's, oh my gosh, I need to look it up. 4 horsemen of conversation, communication, of toxic communication, criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. It's become really, really mainstream now, but you guys can check that out. That's for Jeff. How can I stop procrastinating and actually be productive? One of the best things to do is to find a buddy who motivates you and work with them. My girlfriend is like a workhorse. I can't outwork her. She's real. She's really something, and that definitely motivates me. Putting yourself in those people's vicinities, and even if all you do is you Zoom someone and you're like, okay, you can start off by I teach kids how to work that procrastination muscle, and the trick is to do Pomodoros. So I just have kids start off by doing literally 1 Pomodoro a day. That is 20 minutes of 120% focus. And you can do that while reading. You can do that while studying. You can do that while memorizing. And I have the kids start in 8th grade. And then every month or so, every 2 months, we add another Pomodoro to the point where now I have 8th graders who are doing 5 Pomodoros a day. That's pretty mind-blowing. I can't even do 5 Pomodoros a day. But these kids will sit down and just like poop out their assignments. And the parents pay me like $80 to teach them how to do that. It's pretty marvelous. I mean, I wish I had someone teach me how to do that when I was a kid, to the point where they can get to like, imagine if you had like 8 or 9 or 10 hours of focus. That's how it's done. It really is. I haven't read this book, but I have heard really amazing things about this book called Deep Work. I'm sure there's a free copy of it on the site. I have the PDF. Deep Work by Cal Newport. Here it is. Here are the free books. It's not that structured, Tanvir. I am like chaotic. Like I have like this past week, I've done nothing except play League and just screw around. Yeah, see, Daniel's heard of it. But then I know that in the summer, I am going to be like laser focused, working a lot. I've run the numbers with tutoring, and it's like if I tutor for 30 hours a week for 40 weeks, I can make 6 figures. That's pretty good. So that means I get like 12 weeks off, which is like almost 3 months. But the best part is I control my schedule, right? Like making $20,000 for yourself is actually better than making $80,000 or $90,000 for another person. Who's your league main? I play a lot of support. So I play Thresh and Leona. I used to play a lot of Annie. I had like a couple hundred games on Annie mid. And I used to be plat. I used to play the old Volibear before he was reworked. Climbed to plat with Volibear. He was disgusting. He's still pretty good. Okay, we're gonna wrap this up in a few more minutes. I need to pee. I need to go to the post office. My sister's cat is licking his balls. It's just, everything is going crazy. Everything is just crazy. I have a tutoring business, Denise, which I started last March. Now, the best part of running your own business, guys, and this is the true genius level of mechanics. Is Brazil safe? I'm in New York. I came back from Brazil a week and a half ago. And then I've been quarantining here in my sister's apartment, and then I'll be going down. Annie, yes, I got your email. Congratulations on transferring to Penn. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so happy for you. Congratulations. Hey, if you guys could throw a little congrats for Annie in the chat, that would mean a lot. She transferred and went to Penn. So congrats. Good for you, Annie. Happy to hear it. She transferred. So yeah, if you guys don't like where you are freshman year, there's always the possibility of transferring. Don't rule that out. You can take a gap year, then transfer. There's a lot of things that you can do. More options than you know of exist. Yeah, so I'm a bot lane main to answer your question, Jeffrey. But like I was saying, tutoring. When it comes to the tutoring, I would recommend that there's a reason that like 50% or 60% of millionaires in America are self-employed, right? They all have to start their own business, because when you work for someone else, let's say you get twice as good as your job, right? As an accountant, you're never ever going to get paid twice as much. In fact, it might take you years for them to recognize your talent, get promoted, and then maybe your income goes up by like 15, 20%. Whereas if you get twice as good as your job as an entrepreneur, not only does your rate go up, but there's it kind of compounds. If you get twice as good at your job, if you get twice as good at managing, your income might actually improve by 3 or 4x. So it's a very different game. It's what I mentioned, the pyramid game, where if you get better at your job, you have to compete against more people and it actually gets more competitive, versus the upside down pyramid of running a business where you can essentially grow to infinity, to like $1 billion business if you're really good. Now, me personally, I don't want to run the startup life anymore. It's miserable. It's hard. It's tough. I like working alone, believe it or not. I'm a little solo entrepreneur. And for a lot of tax reasons, it's really great to run your own business, an LLC. So I invest, I trade. And actually what I can do with my business is, let's pretend that this is my business. So people pay the business money. Let's say they pay the business, for simplicity's sake, let's say they pay me $100,000. Yeah, exactly, Siobhan. It's set up for entrepreneurs, not employees. So the beautiful thing is that my business could make 100K, but then I pay Kevin, the employee, I pay Kevin 30K. So I pay Kevin 30K, and now he's in the lowest tax bracket. So all the money that I make off of my trades gets taxed really low. Now, this is still technically my money. Like, I run the business, and then I put all my expenses on the business. And the more expenses you have on your business, the less your business pays in taxes. So you can save like 20K a year just by converting and like creating this kind of, it's not a shell company, but you're using your business to navigate the taxes. So I recommend young people kind of get on this quickly. A lot of people will work on a business or they'll do work, in the professional world for a few years and then start a business. And I would do that. So my tutoring business does do college consultant stuff, but I don't really work with international students. I typically work with Chinese American kids. And yeah, I don't really do a lot of college consulting these days. I mainly do writing. And the beautiful thing about writing is that my students stick with me for a long time. So years, not just not just a few months, but they'll stick with me for years. And then as soon as the kids win a writing award, it's game over, right? Like, of course, they're in love with me. And then they end up referring a ton of their friends. And so everyone wins. It's just an amazing business, honestly. I ran another business, which kind of sucked. Some businesses just really, really suck. Like if you're trying to sell coffee, that is a really tough business to make $1 million in, or make $100,000 in, for simplicity's sake. If you're selling gummy worms, it's hard. If you're selling software, it's easy, because to sell an additional piece of software, you don't have to there's not more expenses, right? It's easy to scale. So, I learned a lot of things in college. This is what I was working on in college. I didn't study. I partied a little bit, but I definitely dabbled. I did like basically every entrepreneurial thing there was to do at Yale, we did, which wasn't that hard either because entrepreneurship at Yale is really tiny. So that's my advice to you guys. Start a company and don't be discouraged if your first company fails. Just think of your first company like your first pancake. It's probably not going to work. If you make at least, even if you make a couple $100, huge pat on the back, congrats. That's a big deal. If you're making cakes and you're selling stuff, that's really great. And last but not least, wow, thank you, Jeff, for the $10 gift, for the $10 chat. Thank you so much, Jeff. Appreciate it. That's really kind of you. What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. I got wrapped up in the gratitude. Last thing I was going to say is, yeah, so if your first business doesn't work, that's fine. That's normal. It usually takes the average entrepreneur takes 3 or 4 tries before they run a successful business. That's really normal. So don't get discouraged. I think like had I started my first business when I was 15 or 16 instead of 18 or 19, I could be retired. I think that in 3 or 4 years, I will probably retire straight up, especially if I'm living in Brazil and like living in Brazil is really cheap. Yeah. With the money that I have now, like I could buy a house and just kind of chill out there. But, you know, I still have other bills to pay, things to do. How are classes at Exeter? Is it possible to prepare prior to attending? They don't use textbooks. I wouldn't worry so much about preparing prior to attending. There are the Exeter math books, and you can take a look at those. They're really amazing. I don't know if anyone's seen them, but Exeter math doesn't use textbooks. All the problems, the entire book is problem-based. So you solve the problems and you learn how to derive like calculus formulas. Exeter math. Let's see. Oh yeah, here it is, guys. It's really, really amazing. And it was designed by the dude who runs the math coach, the Olympic, like USA Olympiad math coach. And they wrote these texts together. It's the culmination of like 10 years of work. So if all you guys did is this, you know, to solve all of these, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books. If you solved every problem in this book, in these 7 books, it would probably take you 2 years. Phillips Exeter Academy. It's the #1 high school in America and where I went to high school. No worries, Sprinkle Slayer. I hadn't heard of it before I attended. Have I worked with kids with thinking and learning differences? Sometimes, yeah, but not too many. Not too many. Okay, friends, we're going to wrap this up. I have a league date. I have some tutoring. I got to go to UPS and drop off this package. But thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you, Jeff, for your donations. Really appreciate you guys showing up here. And I will see you guys next week at 12 p.m. EST. Come up with good questions. I'm an open book. I just want to help you. All right, guys. Thank you so much. And I will see you guys later. Peace.